The 49ers should have learned some important lessons last night if they were willing to be honest with themselves. Hello, everyone. Welcome to an extremely important episode of the Cohn Zone. That's Lowell Cohn. I'm Grant Cohn, and the Seattle Seahawks are Super Bowl champions. Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl champion. Kenneth Walker is a Super Bowl MVP, which is rich because that's not what I'm going to remember about that game. I'm going to remember the Seattle Seahawks defense kicking ass repeatedly for the 20th time this season. Dad, what was the number one lesson that you took from this game that the 49ers should have taken from this butt kicking?
It's very simple, Iggy. At that level, when you're in the Super Bowl and you're an elite team and playing a supposedly elite team, defense wins. Simple as that. Defense wins, especially in this iteration of the NFL. The Seattle offense was okay. There's a lot of field goals. It was okay. The quarterback was okay. He wasn't outstanding. He didn't get to be MVP. But what happened was the defense for the Seahawks controlled the game. The other team not only didn't do well on offense, they looked inept. The quarterback, the poor kid, he might have to see a psychiatrist after what happened yesterday. So what you learned is in this world's NFL, you have to have a dominating, frightening, aggressive, hurtful, big defense.
Yeah. And what's so funny is, that's not exactly how the Niners are built anymore. A few years ago, when they had Jimmy Garoppolo, they did have a huge, frightening defense. And then when they weren't spending a lot of money on Purdy, they had a great defense again. But now, Kittle said it during the season. We have a special offense, and we can win by scoring 40 points and just outscoring people. And they do against bad teams, but it seems like the best defenses are way ahead of the best offenses in the NFL right now, which is strange because all the rule changes have been put into effect to aid offenses. But really, McVay and Kyle and their disciples have been running the league for the last 9-10 years. And it seems like the best defensive coaches have caught up. And now it's up to either those offensive coaches or a new generation to figure out some answers because we didn't see any really this year.
What Kittle said about winning with offense, scoring 40 points, is wishful thinking, Iggy. First of all, they can't do it. So it's preposterous on its face. They're not that good, their offense. But in addition, it's not how you win. Again, you entertain with offense, you win with defense. And that's what Seattle proved it this season and proved it yesterday. That's the lesson the Niners should have learned. So currently, we'll talk about next season in a moment. The defense that they displayed this season, was it at the level of Seattle?
Not even close.
Tell me.
I mean, the Niners defense overachieved given their injuries because they had an excellent defensive coordinator in Robert Saleh, who, is a head coach now. And maybe you could argue he should be the head coach of this team if you want to really go all in with defense. But even with what he did, they were last in the league in sacks, second to last in the league in interceptions. And when they went against really good offenses, they couldn't stop them. And they had, maybe Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Mikael Williams come back and they're all dominant and they stay healthy. But that's just the beginning. They still need to draft new players, and they need guys who were rookies last year to improve greatly. And they need Raheem Morris to be better than he's ever been.
So there's a big question mark that hangs over that defense. If they draft well, and if these other players come back and perform, are they as good as the Seahawks defense?
No, absolutely not. Because it seems like the way the Niners are built right now, the difference between the Niners and the Seahawks is the Niners are heavily invested financially in offense. The Seahawks aren't. You could argue that Brock Purdy is better than Sam Darnold, although Darnold's a champion and Purdy isn't. But they're paying for that difference. And because the Seahawks aren't paying that much for Sam Darnold, relatively speaking, $30 million a year. They can be a defensive team. They don't have to win with their offense. But the Niners, they have to, now that they've invested in Brock, it seems like they have to make corresponding investments in the offense. Well, you got to give him an offensive line. You got to give him weapons. Well, even if he has all that, he's not going to have the defense to really compete with the Seattle Seahawks.
No, and that's the Achilles heel, and people who are watching need to understand that the defense is going to determine where they are. Now, look, you explained to me, you're better at this than I am. This morning, you explained to me that they play their safeties very deep, Iggy, and they say try to run against us. The Rams can. The Rams can run against them. They do well. They lose, but they do well against Seattle. The Niners can't run against them. So they play right into Seattle's hands.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan was speaking before the game. He was an announcer. I've never heard him do it before, and he was pretty good. I don't know. Maybe he'd be better as an announcer than as a coach. They asked him, what's the key to scoring against Seattle, and he first gave like a self-deprecating answer, which I love. He's like, "Look, man. I mean, I don't know if I'm the right guy to ask because I haven't scored a touchdown on these guys in 2 games, but." What they do is they play their safety so deep, they don't give up big plays through the air that you really have to run the ball. And we were able to do that in the first game. We weren't able to do it in the next 2. Actually, if you look back, they haven't been able to run the ball on the Seahawks in years. They always do a good job against Christian McCaffrey. So he's saying, the counter is run the ball better, which is crazy. Like you'd think a genius would have something a little bit more less basic. I mean, yeah, obviously, if you can run the ball against defense, you're going to do well. That's all they've got. So it seems to me, Dad, how do they run the ball better against Seattle?
Okay, first of all, it is basic, but it's a fair thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
If you can run the ball, it opens everything up on offense. We know that. The issue is he knows you need to run the ball better, but he's not willing to do what he needs to do to run the ball better. So his mind is divided. He knows what he needs to do. He needs to get an offensive line. He has his offensive line, Iggy, we would rate in the C range.
Yes.
Or D, or maybe C range. So it's passing. It's a passable grade, but it's not really good.
They didn't really have a left guard this year. Their center is nothing special. Their right guard's pretty good. Their right tackle's pretty good. And their left tackle's 38.
Yeah, and okay, so that's one component. And the other is, look, McCaffrey won Comeback Player of the Year. He's a Stanford guy. I'm all in with him. And you like him. He's decent with you.
Mm-hmm.
Iggy, I've said this before. He's not adequate as your go-to running back. Christian, I'm sorry. Age comes for everybody. Even if he had a better offensive line, Iggy, I don't think he's the guy they need. They need to have another guy to split the carries with him or to have more carries than he does. He's more of a gadget player now, coming out of the backfield and catching passes. If you're going to run against Seattle and beat them, you need a running game. And Kyle understands it, but isn't willing to do what he needs to do to get the running game.
Well, he has to improve the offensive line, but it's also fair to wonder whether he needs to improve the running back as well. I mean, Christian is at the age where running backs fall off, and this is a great defense he's going against. And really, for the last 4 years, when Kyle's been at his best, his offense has just been give the ball to Christian. Am I wrong? That's what Kyle does. He gives the ball to Christian as much as he freaking can.
Yeah, and it's really not fair to Christian, and it's not fair to the team. There needs to be another weapon and more creativity. For a creative offensive mind, he's sort of single-minded. He's running this kid to death.
Yeah, and it can work when they face the Arizona Cardinals or some team that isn't good. But the team they got to worry about and find ways to take down is Seattle. And you've had this Mike McDonald defense there for a couple years. And these are the last 4 meetings the Niners have had against Seattle. Christian McCaffrey, who's the offense, the one guy you got to shut down in those 4 games. So 3 this year and the last one in 2024. 60 carries for 206 yards. That's 3.4 per attempt. 24 catches for 173 yards. So that's not even 400 yards in 4 games total. That's 379 yards from scrimmage in 4 games and no touchdowns. So what the Seahawks are doing is shutting down Christian McCaffrey, which essentially is shutting down the Niners offense. So Kyle, you want to evolve? It seems like you need to have a new focal point of your offense, and it's not going to be Debo. It's not going to be George Kittle. I don't know if it can be Ricky Pearsall. He's a really good complementary player, but you need a new go-to guy in your offense.
And Iggy, you're talking about shutting down. What it also means is McDonald is shutting down Kyle.
Correct.
He's beating him. They go against each other. He calls the defense. Kyle calls the offense. He owns Kyle. If I were Kyle, I wouldn't want to be owned. I wouldn't want him to be my daddy. I'd want to beat him.
That's Kyle's daddy right now.
And Iggy, I would do everything in my power to beat him. I would be brutally honest with myself. I would say, sure, I'll keep Christian, but I have to have another guy who can share the load or take more of it, because otherwise I'm playing into Seattle's hands. Yep. You have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. So why are the Rams having success against the Seahawks defense and you're not, Kyle? Well, the Rams have 2 running backs, not just one. They're both in their mid-20s and they're fresh, unlike your guy who you've worn into the ground the last 3 years. They have a much better offensive line than you. And they have, all these weapons on the outside that the Seahawks actually respect. So there are those things.
Iggy, the Rams are behind Seattle, but if they were to play them a game, you could make a case that the Rams would beat them. The Rams
every time they play each other, it goes down to the very end. It feels like the Seahawks are a little bit better than the Rams.
But you can't make a case that the Niners are going to beat the Seahawks.
Mm-mm.
You can't. No. And which means that really, if you look at the NFC West, there are 2 teams at the top, 2 elite teams, Iggy. And the Niners are in a middle ground. And then Arizona is in purgatory or hell or whatever. But the Niners are not near those 2 teams. Not one, 2 teams. They're in a different echelon.
There's one more thing I want to say. His strategy, like how he needs to update his attack to actually be effective against the Seahawks. It's not just that the Seahawks have those 2 great wide receivers. Yeah, Puka's great, and Devontae Adams is good when he's healthy. But what the Rams were most effective doing this year was playing with 3 tight ends on the field. Matthew Stafford's numbers when 3 tight ends were on the field was off the charts. And the Seahawks want to run like a nickel defense with 3 safeties out there. They don't really want to play a big defense. They want to be fast. And so the Rams are counter that by being as big as possible on offense. So Kyle, you need a new running back, obviously. You need some new offensive linemen, obviously. The use check thing isn't confusing Seattle anymore. Having the fullback on the field, it's not helping your running game. It's not helping your passing game. You need to get new tight ends. You need to get a lot of tight ends. That's what's working for the Rams. You need to copy Sean McVay.
I have a question about Shanahan, a little off the point. You said I don't listen. I watch the game, but I don't listen to that stuff. I turn the sound off. That he was chatting, and you said he was articulate. Did he say a lot?
I'd have to go back and listen. That'd be interesting. I wonder if he finally got coached up on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to think of him as being whimsical, funny, self-deprecating, and speaking in complete sentences without leaning on a lot. And I was just curious because, as I say, I watched the game yesterday. I didn't watch any of the pregame stuff. I had enough of that. And plus, it's not what you do when you're in the press box, and that's how I learned. And I only put on the sound when there's a penalty or a strange play, because when these guys talk, they get in my way. You know how quiet it is. It's like a library in the press box.
Yeah.
There's no announcers or anything like that.
Well, what kills me about what Kyle Shanahan said, like the key to beating the Seahawks, is he went straight to what his offense has to do, like an offensive coordinator. And he said, like we were able to do it in week 1, and that's why we won. No, you weren't. You didn't run the ball well against the Seahawks in week 1. You scored 17 points in that game. You won week 1 because your defense was dominant. And on the final possession, the Seahawks had the ball and they were driving down the field and they were in the red zone. And Nick Bosa took the ball away from Sam Darnold. Checkmate. So the question to you, Dad, is do you think the Niners defense will be dominant next season when these guys come back?
No, I don't. I think, look, I think it'll be a good defense. Good. Seattle has a great defense. I think it'll be a good defense that will have trouble against really good offenses. By the way, um, I don't consider Seattle a really good offense. I consider the Rams a really good offense and other teams. Um, so maybe Chicago, uh, Denver, really good offense, but actually not Seattle. But no, I think it'll be a good defense, and I'm not sure good is good enough. What about you?
I don't even think they're aiming for dominant. I think, again, the Niners think they're an offensive team. They're probably going to bring in some wide receiver or offensive lineman and try to get by with a youngish defense and like an opportunistic defense. Hey, if we're really scoring well and we have leads, we want a defense that can take the ball away or get sacks. But and that's, I guess, what the Falcons did last year under Raheem Morris, a lot of sacks and interceptions. But he's never, ever in his career coached a dominant defense. Not ever, statistically. So I would think probably not, unless Upton Stout magically becomes an all-pro player or Michael Williams has 15 sacks, which I don't expect.
Well, Dante Whitner went on YouTube and he talked about Raheem Morris. He knows a lot more about him than I do. He said after next season, they'll be looking for another defensive coordinator. It was Whitner, not
Yeah.
me. And I don't have an opinion. I don't know enough about Raheem Morris. I hope he's good.
What I think is so interesting about the NFL and how it goes back and forth between who has upper hand, offense and defense, it felt like for the last 10 years, Kyle and his disciples had the upper hand to a degree. Kyle would melt down for game management stuff, but it seems like he was cutting edge. Did Bill Walsh use that term, cutting edge?
All the time. He used it
Okay.
in this way. This was Bill, and you have to understand, Bill had a hard time praising anyone. Anyone. It's his makeup, all right? And when he would talk to me privately about other coaches, and there were a lot of coaches he said that it's about, Lowell, he's not cutting edge. And I'm not going to say what coaches he said it about, but Lowell, he's not cutting edge, and that meant he's not cutting edge. And Bill was probably right. And it also meant I'm the edge. Isn't that what
Right.
he meant?
No question. And I think
Yeah.
it's fair to say the last 10 years in offense, the cutting edge was Kyle McVay, Andy Reid, Mike McDaniel. A lot of those. Andy Reid's off in his own universe, but it was a lot of Kyle and his friends. They were definitely cutting edge. And I don't think they are anymore. I think they've proliferated their system throughout the league. Half the teams or more than half the teams run their system. A lot of smart people have figured out how to run it and do a good job with it. I think the guys who are cutting edge in the NFL right now are defensive coaches like Mike McDonald. Like, what the fuck is he doing over there? Does anyone else do it like him? He seems like he's way beyond everyone else. And the defense in general, the best defenses are way beyond the best offenses right now. And it hasn't been like that in a while.
Iggy, he's younger than you, isn't he?
I think he's maybe 6 months older than me. I think he's born in 87. So
Okay.
he might have been in this. He probably graduated high school in 06, just like me.
He's
He's
a
the
young
third
guy.
youngest coach to ever win a Super Bowl behind McVay and Chuck Noll.
I love that stat. Thank you.
Yeah.
He's a young guy. So what
Yep.
he is he's a young, brilliant guy.
Yep.
He's a young,
Who
brilliant
grew up
guy.
watching Kyle Shanahan, who grew up watching Sean McVay and is now their nemesis,
Yes. He probably looked at them when he was really a nobody and said, I can beat that.
Yeah.
I can
I
beat
get
that.
what they're doing. I can beat
I
that.
can beat that.
And he
I
is.
can beat that. Yeah. You have to give it to him. Iggy, now I take the Rams out of it a little bit, but he looks at Kyle and all the, maybe the guy up in Green Bay and says, I can beat that.
And the way I feel is whoever wins the Super Bowl next year, most likely will be the team that has the best defense. That's where the league is right now. The Eagles won it last year, and their offense was really high flying in the Super Bowl, but They didn't give up a point until the fourth quarter or something like that. They won that game with defense. The last two Super Bowl winners have had all-time defenses. All-time defenses. I haven't seen
Iggy,
an all-time offense in a while in the NFL.
I was told that when Seifert was the Niners coach, Holmgren was the offensive coordinator. And one time he came to me and said, George, this is my plan against so and so on Sunday. George looked at it and said, I can beat that. Do it again.
Love that.
That's what I was told. I can beat that. Do it again. Yeah.
All
You
right,
love
Dad.
it,
This
right?
is interesting. I do love it.
Yeah.
Let's talk Super Bowl odds for 2026. We're just talking about, is their defense dominant enough? We don't think it is. We feel like the Niners offense, the Niners roster is a little flawed. But every year it seems like the betting public, the odds makers believe in the 49ers. That being said, we're entering year 10. This team's getting old. So I'm looking at ESPN Super Bowl odds. So let's go from the best down, and eventually we'll get to the 49ers. The best odds, the lowest odds to win the Super Bowl is a tie between the Seahawks and the Rams. Fair?
That's fair. Yeah.
Fair? Okay. Number 3, at 11-1, the Bills. Now, this we can agree or not, but this is just what non-biased odds makers are saying right now. Number 4, Eagles, 13-1. Tied, Ravens, 13-1. Patriots, 13-1. Lions, 14-1. Packers, 14-1. Chargers, 15-1. Chiefs, 15-1. 49ers, 17-1. So they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 11th best odds. It's interesting. It seems like people are starting to be a little skeptical of this core group.
Well, they're still in the top third.
Yes,
right?
They are. Yeah.
There's 32 teams. I'm counting 33. They're still in the top third. Iggy, people are beginning to get wise to them. I think that rating is too high. Because here's the deal, Iggy. They're not going to win a Super Bowl next season. No. I'm sorry. I know you're 49er fans. Lowell's a dick. Lowell's saying all this stuff. I'm sorry. Iggy, they're not going to win a Super Bowl next season. They're just not going to. There are too many teams better than them. And some teams way better than them. And another thing, we were talking about Kyle and how good he is. And he's very good. He's a very good play designer. But Iggy, he's wedded to his father's system.
Yep.
This is the time he needs to break out because he needs to think differently to beat Seattle. And I've not seen that he's capable of doing it. He just thinks, I need to do better at my system. No, you need to do better not at your system. And I think that's his Achilles heel.
Yeah. And to me, again, we've been talking about this all show. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, but it feels like in today's NFL, there are no dominant elite offenses, all-time offenses anymore. There's good ones, but there are every year 1 or 2 or maybe 3 incredible defenses. And the Niners used to be one of the teams with those. In 2022, they had an incredible defense. In 2019, they had an incredible all-time defense. Now, they're not even trying to build their team that way anymore. They're trying to have an all-time great offense. And I just don't think those even exist anymore. Your quarterback is good, not great. Your offensive line is mediocre. We've talked about they're just not going to be a great offense. They could be good, but they're not going to be great on offense. They're not going to be great on defense. It's not going to happen for them.
Iggy, did Jim Harbaugh have great defenses?
Yeah. He's an offensive coach who makes sure he has a great defense. And all he's trying to do on offense is complement the defense, not mess it up, not turn it over. He could be a little more aggressive on offense, but that seems to be the winning formula. It was the Seahawks formula, have a great defense and an offense that can complement it, run the ball, quarterback who can manage the game and not turn it over. And Darnold actually became a safety first game manager. God love him.
Yeah.
So 11th best odds to win the Super Bowl this year. Then now we got to talk about Darnold. But before we do, I want to shout out this week's sponsor, AG1. I've been drinking this stuff every morning before I take a cup of coffee. I'm feeling a lot better because of it. Motivation comes and goes, but habits show up when you don't feel like it. AG1 is the easiest habit that you can start now to support consistency even when motivation isn't perfect, especially in February when January motivation dips and winter routines need a reset. Most supplements overcomplicate things with tons of pills and confusing timing, an impossible schedule to maintain long term. AG1 simplifies your nutrition, multivitamin, pre and probiotics, superfoods, and antioxidants all in one scoop. It's an easy daily reset that brings foundational nutrition no matter what your schedule throws at you. Weekend trips, late nights, or just the start stop routine that come with the winter. AG1 is the opposite of a complexity. 20 seconds, one scoop, 8 ounces of water, done. Drink it first thing on those cozy winter mornings before coffee, before checking your phone. It will become a micro habit that anchors everything else. I use this every single day, and you should too. By the way, AG1 now comes in original, citrus, berry, and tropical. This is berry, my favorite, but experiment with the flavors. They're all delicious. AG1 has more than 50,000 verified 5-star reviews and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time only, go to drinkag1.com/Cohn to get a free AG1 flavor sampler and AGZ sampler to try all the flavors, plus free vitamin D3 and K2 and AG1 welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription order. This is a limited time offer only available while supplies last. That's drinkag1.com/Cohn. Drinkag1.com/COHN. All right, Dad, it's
But
time to
hold
ask.
on.
What do you
I
want
got one more
to
thing.
say?
I can testify that he does take AG1 before his coffee in the middle. I know. I see his habits. So he's
They
actually
always say drink water before you drink coffee in the morning, and I never did, and I became very dehydrated, and now this is a great excuse to drink water, and there's stuff in the water that's good for you, which I think is good. But if it was
Okay.
just water on its own, that would be good. It would be Dianu, but this is AG1 plus the water.
They don't know what Dayenu is. It means it would be enough. It's from
Yeah,
Passover. Okay,
it's a
let's move
Passover
on.
thing. All right, let's ask the most obnoxious question. It's gotta be asked. Sam Darnold won the Super Bowl. Did the 49ers keep the wrong quarterback?
Okay. It's a fair question. And because we try to be on top of things, we have to ask it. Iggy, I like Brock Purdy a lot better than Sam Darnold. I mean, God love him. He won the game. Iggy, he had a lower passing rating than than May. Do you know that he
Yeah.
had a lower pass? He had a lower passer rating.
Yeah,
What he did yesterday was he didn't screw it up, and that's
correct.
important. That's
Yes.
important. But what his contribution was, he didn't screw it up. Brock Purdy, look, Brock Purdy doesn't have the arm or the big size that this guy has. Granted, and he still gives it up some. I think he's much more gifted. I do. I think he's a more gifted quarterback. And if I were running the 49ers, I would have kept Purdy over Darnold. And God love Darnold. He's a champion. Do you agree or disagree with me?
I agree and disagree. You made great points. And what I want to say is Brock is better than Sam Darnold. And the salaries reflect that. I mean, the Seahawks don't have a ton of confidence in Darnold, and their play calling shows it. The Niners have a ton of confidence in Brock Purdy, and their play calling shows it. But when you give Brock that contract, he needs to be great, and you can't build through defense. You can't ask him to be a game manager. He has to be special, and he hasn't been special against Seattle when it counts. And on top of that, he can't even manage the game. I mean, he's turning the ball over a lot. He turned it over 5 times in 3 games against Seattle. Like, at least with Darnold, since he doesn't have the pressure of being a franchise quarterback, quote unquote, he can manage the game. And as a game manager, the last 2 seasons, he's 28-6 in the regular season, and he's never gotten injured in the last 2 seasons. So he's a bigger guy. He's a more durable guy. He's a very mature quarterback at this stage of his career, and he's affordable. You could argue that, I mean, there's a reason why they just won a Super Bowl with him. You can win a Super Bowl with Sam Darnold playing the way he does, making what he makes, if you have a competent GM and coach or a good GM and coach. I don't know that you can win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy making what he makes. It's tough. Is he ever going to have the defense with that salary? Maybe. I don't know.
One thing Darnold has that Brock doesn't have is an offensive line.
Yep.
He has an offensive
He's got
line.
everything over there in Seattle. He's got everything in Seattle.
He's got a better running back. He's got an offensive line. He has better receivers. He has more advantages right now than Brock Purdy. So let's do it another way.
Mhm.
We both you agreed and disagreed. I love it. You're clever, and I say Purdy. I'm going to bring this to you because you're better at this than I am. Take Donald away from Seattle. Put Brock on Seattle. How does he do?
I love that question. I think he would do very well, but I think it would be interesting because the Seahawks would say, "Look, Brock, we know that you you make a lot of money and you think very highly of yourself and you've been empowered to do all kind of crazy stuff on the Niners, but over here, we don't really need you to hold the ball for 8 seconds. We don't need you to do all this stuff. We really just need you to manage the game, check it down, and let us win with defense and field goals. Like, can you do will your ego allow you to do that? Or do you have to prove why you're so special? Because one of the nice things about Darnold is he's not really trying to impress anyone anymore. He's really reached that at Alex Smith stage of his career where he has found a winning formula and he's sticking to it.
Okay, I love how you couch it. And my answer to that is I think he could do it, Brock, because he's coachable.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's a
I agree.
coachable person. There are people who are not coachable, quarterbacks who are not coachable. I don't think Kaepernick was really coachable toward the end.
Mhm.
I had other things on his mind.
Yeah,
Look, I'm not there. Maybe he was. I don't know. I think this kid is coachable. I think he would do as well as Darnold and better if he were on Seattle because they'd ask less of him. And but sometimes I think Kyle asks too much of him and not giving him
fair.
enough options.
It's fair. The
Yeah.
one last thing I want to praise Darnold for because it's a big thing for quarterbacks, and it's something that Purdy hasn't necessarily proven he can do year in and year out, which is just stay healthy. Darnold doesn't take big hits. He's not limping around the field. He seems to be able to get through seasons. He had the like a little oblique injury, but it wasn't from getting blown up on the field. Or he's a big guy. He made a bunch of guys miss in this. He's under a lot of pressure. He didn't have any sack fumbles. Brock makes incredible plays, but he's smaller and he missed 8 games this year, 2 games last year. And so the Niners have this incredible trade chip in Mac Jones that they have to hold on to because they don't really know how many games Brock Purdy's going to play this year, where the Seahawks don't have to do that.
Yeah, you're making a very good point. And availability, durability, crucial.
Yeah.
And in that, Darnold is superior. I agree with you.
Well, last thing on this before we move on, what I admire about the Seahawks, maybe I'm misreading them, is I feel like they know exactly who Sam Darnold is. And even though he won a Super Bowl with them in his first year as a starter, they're very appreciative. But I don't think they're looking at him being like, "Damn, should we give him an extension right now? Is this guy the best quarterback in the league?" I think they're looking at him as like, hey, he did what we wanted him to do. We worked around him and he stepped up when he needed to, but doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be our quarterback for the next 5 years. I mean, it's still sort of wait and see. Whereas the Niners lost a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy and they were desperate to give him a big time contract. I just like that the Seahawks are a little bit more measured, a lot more measured.
When you look at Darnold on the Seahawks, he's one of a cast of characters. It's not Darnold and the Seahawks. It's the
Nope.
Seahawks, including Darnold and Walker, etc. And I think it comes back to the general manager.
One more thing I like about Seattle, this has nothing to do with the quarterback, but now that you bring it up, so you know what Seattle doesn't have? A core group of players. They just have one kick-ass team.
Yeah. I've told you the whole idea of a core group of players is bullshit. And it's hurting the 49ers, especially if you put the fullback into that group. What? No. Delete him. He's had a career, he's made money, delete him, get a better player. Bigger, faster, younger, stronger. Get a better player and not a fullback. Make him a tight end.
Yeah, when you talk about a core group of players, it's like a caste system on the team, and it feels like the older players sort of holding down the younger players. And what makes the Rams and especially the Seahawks so formidable right now is that their younger players are the best players on the team. And it's not like there's a bunch of guys who are 33 and 34 being like, yeah, wait your turn.
Right. And it means that they have many years of life ahead of them, whereas the Niners, especially on offense, many of them have a sell-by date, and some of them have passed it.
Yeah. Jason Lutz says thoughts on Roger Craig finally making the Hall of Fame, and does Lowell have any fond stories about him? Are any other players from that era missing in the Hall of Fame?
Well, congratulations to Roger. He was a dual threat player. What I would say about him, he has a very genial personality. He likes to smile and he likes to laugh. And you know that he and Jerry Rice lived near each other on the peninsula and used to run up one of those hills. And Roger was a serious, he was a hurdler, right? He was from Nebraska, Iggy.
Mm-hmm,
Is that where
mm-hmm.
you went? And he was really
Yes.
fast. And
Yes.
one time I said, because you actually could talk to players in those days as opposed to now. I said to him, when you run with Jerry, who's faster? And Roger said, Jerry. And I was really
Interesting.
surprised. Yeah, he said Jerry.
That's interesting. Because Jerry
Yeah.
probably didn't have that track background that Roger had.
Probably Roger got off quicker. But
Yeah.
Jerry, after he accelerated to full speed, I think he might have been one of the fastest guys and underrated in his
Yeah.
speed. Not underrated in his ability, but in his speed.
The other question from Jason is, any other player from that era missing in the Hall of Fame? It does seem interesting that, that era is so well represented in the Hall of Fame from on offense, defense, and the coaching staff. But I don't think any offensive lineman made the Hall of Fame from that group. And I think they would probably feel like, hey, we were pretty important too. Randy Cross, Keith Fonhorst, Harris Barton. I'm not saying any of them should be in the Hall of Fame, but maybe one guy would have an argument.
Well, Randy Cross was pretty good. Keith
Randy
Von
Cross
Horst
was
was
pretty good.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Randy Cross was a Bruin.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was Bill Walsh's philosophy, and it's similar to Kyle's, but he had Bob McKittrick. He did not particularly want to draft offensive linemen high. He and Bob McKittrick did not get along. They didn't like each other. That's known. But he understood how good Bob was, and he felt he could coach them up. He did. And he made them into a really, really effective offensive line. And again, Bill's philosophy was he always thought about boxing. That's one of the things. He and I always talked about boxing, and he always talked about getting in the first punch. Punch being a metaphor. He didn't want his players to punch people, but getting in the first blow. And he wanted Bob to coach them up that way, that they would be an aggressive, fast, get you first. And that was their philosophy.
Jewish guy says we need to pay Linderbaum whatever he wants and draft 2 offensive linemen with the first 2 picks and pay Daniel Jeremiah or someone to consult during the draft. Yeah, what's so funny about the Niners this year is they may understand that they finally need to invest in the offensive line, and they could do that. But to me, the defense is more important. You could do everything you need to do for the offense, but if you have a mediocre defense, you're not going to win the Super Bowl in 2026 or 7.
Iggy, I'm going to disagree a little bit with what you just said. I agree they need to beef up the defense, but they also need to beef up the offensive line. What I'm saying is they need both.
I agree. I'm just saying it's not enough. It's not enough to beef up the offensive line anymore. But it's important.
Right.
It's yeah. Yeah.
That's how far away Iggy, that's how far away they are. That they need, and desperately, that's the adverb, desperately need both. Not one, both.
Yeah. And I don't think they realize how desperately they need it. Jacinth says to drive home the point, the Seahawks had more sacks and turnovers at Levi's this season than the Niners did.
Meaning they caused more sacks or had more.
The Seahawks played 2 games at Levi's this season. The Niners played 9. Yes. And the Seahawks had more sacks and turnovers on defense in that stadium in 2 games, and the Niners had 9. That's not good. Corey Coleman says, so proud of the Hawks. Their brotherhood shines throughout, and Sam had a poetic redemption by hoisting Lombardi on your rival's field.
Sure.
All day, every day, Kim says, this fan base has a bunch of chumps, and it's mostly a generational thing. Saying Brock's better, well, he's not better, especially for the money he's making over Sam. Niners had a freaking loaded team and lost.
They didn't have a loaded team, Miggy.
2 years ago.
Hold on. Oh, 2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm old. I'm 80 years old. I'm not as fast as you people are. No,
Siegfried says, did Papa Cohn see the Niners documentary?
I want to tell you why. Um, okay. I don't watch much television. I read mostly, but that's a horseshit excuse. I lived those years. I'm not sure I want to relive them. And there's something else. Um, Whoever produced that, I think it was Brady who produced it. They should have called Ira Miller. He documented the 5 championships. And excuse me, they should have called me. They had some other people from the Bay Area media talking about those teams. Give me a fucking break.
There's that. There's that. I noticed that too. Brand Only 27 says, don't you understand that teams are now using Microsoft Cult Pilot computers to predict plays with AI? That's how they're winning games. No, I didn't know that.
I don't even understand it, but okay.
In my last super chat, I meant to say Microsoft Surface with Copilot AI. All the teams are using them now.
I need a co-pilot. Iggy,
I didn't know
today
that.
I'm your co-pilot.
Huh.
You're the
Maybe we
pilot.
need to start using AI to make our shows better.
Yeah.
What should we
could have
talk
2
about
people
today?
that they could give me hair and make me 30 years younger, and,
That'd be a good look.
and they say, "This is how Lowell says things," in a Brooklyn accent.
Sudden Chaos says, Lowell, thank you for your reply on your Substack. Love it.
Thank you.
Torres says, Mike did it in 2. Kyle is still trying to win a Super Bowl. Yes.
Well, there's that. There's that.
Gregory Young says, Grant, please ask Kyle Shanahan, John, every chance you get, what are you going to do to make the Niners more competitive against the Seahawks? It is more than injuries.
Oh, I know how John will answer. We're doing everything we can. We look into every possibility. We leave no stone unturned. He'll say stuff like that.
We're constantly focused on that. Dazza says, while Purdy is better than Darnold, Purdy has never had a playoff game like Darnold had against the Rams. Yeah, that was big a couple of weeks ago, NFC Championship game. Jacinth72 says, Darnold plays the game they need him to play to win. He went for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no turnovers against the Rams to earn the Super Bowl berth in the first place. It's true.
Yes. Yep.
Jack the Ripper says, new sub here, found you through Kruger. Love to see someone calling out this everything is great BS. We will never improve without guys like you. Thank you.
Oh, I love see the praise you get. I like that.
KRNA RMG says, gotta love that the York era will be remembered for the Seahawks eating Thanksgiving dinner on the Niners field and celebrating a Super Bowl win in the Niners locker room. Yeah, somehow they deserve it. Baby Radiant says, can you imagine being a Niner player and in the locker room knowing Seahawks celebrated in there?
Hey, Iggy, hold on. Could we come back to the Thanksgiving?
You were there.
Okay. You were there too.
Yeah.
Here's what happened.
Yeah.
The Niners got beat on Thanksgiving to the Seahawks. And I had some horseshit column idea.
We were walking from the elevator around. That's where I used to do my instant reaction. So you know that stroll. It's about 3 minutes. And I'm looking, this is like 2014. I'm looking at my phone. You're not looking at Twitter. And I'm like, Dad, Jed just tweeted something. And you're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, yeah, look.
Tell him what he tweeted.
He apologized to the fans for the performance of the team. It's not good enough. We'll do better. And I mean, it just happens. And I'm like, what, 27? I'd never seen an owner do anything like that. I didn't exactly know what to make of it. And immediately you were outraged. And you had that column written in your head before you sat down in the press conference. And the whole thing was just eviscerating Jed York for writing that. And again, people could say it now is easy. It's obvious and easy to say that Jed York messed up that night, but I wonder how many people actually did it that night on the spot. You did.
It's like I turned into a werewolf before we got into the auditorium. I did it in the hallway, and I realized my column was nothing. The owner just made, and it was so rude to his coaching staff, Iggy. You know, they had put in blood, sweat, and tears and got beaten a game. And it's like kicking someone when they're down. And he sat in his fucking box. He sat in his box eating popcorn or hors d'oeuvres. And he had the nerve to do that to his team. And it showed how little he liked Harbaugh. It was a way of getting him. I think my first line in the column was, Jed York is a coward. I think it was.
Oh, that exactly was the first line. Correct. Yes. 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 I'm sure that column still exists somewhere on Google. Someone searched for it. Jed York is a coward. 2014 Niners Seahawks Thanksgiving night. Touch Band says Purdy Sam is better than Purdy, can throw deep and not turn it over when it mattered.
That's a fair argument. It's a fair argument.
Yeah, I mean the guy won a freaking Super Bowl. John Naylor says Papa Cohn, how best to handle substation with players. We are going to talk about
We're going
that
to get into that. We're going to get into that.
in just a minute, but first let's Dad talk about the next important thing on the calendar. The Super Bowl has passed. It's a little bit of a dead period, but in a few weeks, the NFL world will reconvene in Indianapolis for the combine. It'll be about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I was there last year, and this will be when Kyle won't go, but John Lynch will go, and he'll do a press conference, and we'll be able to ask him about Raheem Morris and the Seahawks. That'll be a big press conference.
Well, so what do we want to talk about? First of all, I'm going to do it in reverse order because Lynch will make himself available to local media. I want to talk about some questions that are fair to ask him.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get into what they should be focusing on at the combine. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Iggy, if I were there with my personality and the fact that I had more standing in a way than you did because I represented newspapers and we were more secure from the Niners than you are as SI.com. And I apologize to SI.com.
That's the truth.
The question I would ask boldly in that media conference with Lynch is, name one specific thing you must do to make your roster better. Not we're looking to all possibilities low. No, I didn't ask you that, John. Name one specific thing. You went to Stanford, you can do it.
Yeah.
Name, are we offensive line, defensive line, running back? Name one specific thing. That's a question I would ask.
Well, what's funny about, I love that question. What's funny about that is like Kyle essentially did name one specific thing yesterday in the pregame for the Super Bowl, saying you got to run the ball to beat the Seahawks. All right. Well, if you got to run the ball to beat the Seahawks, you tried it in every different which way this year. It didn't work. You need a new running back and a new offensive lineman. So you better be looking real hard at those two positions at the combine, running backs and offensive linemen. If you were to, the Niners took Mykel Williams with the 11th pick. Okay, fine. He's not much of a pass rusher yet. He could develop into one. Defensive lineman got hurt. Fine. The Seahawks picked about 6 picks later. They took a guard, and he's great. Gray Zabel. The Niners could have had him, but they didn't want him. They went defense. If the Niners were to take a guard this year in round 1, that would be a good pick as long as they get it right. They need to add as many first rounders on that offensive line as possible.
So you feel that in Indianapolis, they should be, what are they looking at? They should
tackle centers, guards, running backs. You got to look at all of them. Tight ends. And you need wide receivers too, but like you have Ricky Pearsall. You drafted a guy last year that you didn't even play in Jordan Watkins. You got guys. You don't have anyone on the offensive line. That you got to look at that.
Iggy, but we also said you win with defense. What would they be looking at on defense?
Jeez Louise. And that's what's so rough. You spent your first round pick last year on a defensive end, and you could argue that their biggest need right now is defensive end because Mykel Williams is kind of more like a defensive tackle who can defend the run. So you still need an edge rusher. You still need another linebacker next to Fred Warner. You need 2 safeties. That's a start.
2 safeties.
2 safeties. At least one safety. Okay, I mean, Jair Brown isn't good, and Malik Mustafa is like okay. He makes some solid tackles sometimes, but he does nothing in coverage for you. Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Iggy, again, they have needs, desperate needs on both sides. Desperate needs on both sides.
Desperate needs. And I don't want to bring up ancient history, but like the Niners thought that they were past this or that the sin doesn't count anymore because they drafted Brock Purdy. They found Brock Purdy, but they're still paying for the fact that they threw all those picks away on Trey Lance and got nothing from it. They're still paying for it.
I agree. That Iggy, on this group, that's running the team now, that's their original sin.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, for anyone else, it'd be a fireable offense. It's
Yeah.
one of the worst trades of all time. You gave up 3 years worth of first round picks for a player who was not in the NFL, who played in Division II college football, who's 20 years old and didn't work out. One of the worst trades ever executed, and these guys are all still employed, and we understand why, but it's still affecting them.
Yeah, right. And Iggy, the other thing that worries me about them, if they had those 3 first round picks, would they have picked
Yeah.
wisely?
Yeah. What they do, they're the opposite of Bill Walsh and John McVay. When those two were really in the zone, it seemed like they would trade down and have such a good feel for the draft board that they could get guys they targeted while picking up more assets. The Niners get excited and they'll trade up. And it's either they don't know exactly who they want, but they want to make a big move, or they do know who they want and they overestimate how far they have to go to get them. But when I'm afraid that the Niners are going to do something like that this year, where they weren't aggressive last year, and maybe they feel like they need to go all in, or they got to do something drastic to catch the Seahawks, and they trade up for someone that they shouldn't trade up for.
Bill had a real feel for the draft. He had a real feel for it. Um, I don't think John McVay had much to do with the draft, Iggy,
Mm,
but the
okay.
scout Tony Rosano, he and again, Bill didn't always get along with people. He and Bill did they both wanted the credit. Let's give it 50-50. But he had this really brilliant personnel guy, really brilliant. And they made great picks, and Bill was happy to trade down and knew what he was doing. That's the thing. He didn't trade down willy nilly. He knew what he wanted. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, isn't it true that Bill wanted Phil Simms, but didn't trade up, and the Giants took him, and Bill was despondent, and Tony Rosano was like, "It's all right, man. There's this guy at Notre Dame who's a gamer. I mean, he leads these comebacks. He's a good player, and isn't that how he? Isn't how the
That's
Niners
what I.
got Joe Montana?
That's what I've heard a lot. That he
Yeah,
wanted Sims and he settled for Montana. Interesting, but once he got Joe, he knew what to do with him.
yeah. And you could give
Iggy,
Kyle the same kind of credit, like he wanted, whatever, and he ended up with Brock Purdy, and then it worked out. But he still got to win a Super Bowl, and you know,
Iggy, I want to
three
say one
first
other
round picks.
thing. I want to say one other thing about Bill Walsh in the draft. Have I ever told you this on the air? There was this actor named Bradford Dillman that you wouldn't even know who he was. He was from my generation, Bradford Dillman. He was a TV character actor. Somehow he got to know Bill, and he was a real 49ers fan. He lived in LA, 49ers fan. So Bill said, "Why don't you be in the draft room with us, in the war room?" So he would invite Bradford Dillman to the war. This is a true story, and he did it more than once, from what I understand. And Bradford was serious. He would come with notes, and he would follow every round. And one year they had one. This I know for a fact. They had one pick left, and Bill, I guess he had finished what he wanted to do, and he said, "Bradford, you make the pick." And Bradford Dillman, the actor, made the final pick in the draft one time for Bill Walsh. That's an absolutely true story. So even as hot as Bill was, he had a sense of humor that he let Bradford Dillman in. He let him make a pick.
That's a great story.
Yeah, it's
All
true.
right. Speaking of a sense of humor, Jed York giggled and laughed when asked about the electric substation this past week at the Super Bowl. And then he had to run it back and did another interview with Alex Sherman of CNBC, who did a great job interviewing him, brought this up. And although this time Jed didn't giggle uh, or make light of it, he was equally dismissive and deflected. So, Dad, he's had two shots at this. What do you think of the 49ers owners' public response to this thing?
Okay. I want to make it clear that I'm going to talk a little personally about Jed. That Grant is not, I don't want him to engage in this because he works with these people. But this is me. I'm an old man and I'm retired. Iggy, when he was asked by this Kay Adams, who I don't consider to be a serious interviewer, I don't know her, she may be very nice, about the substation, he giggled like a child. He giggled as if it was a silly topic beneath him. At that moment, he acted like a shallow, silly man.
Mhm.
I want to make this very clear. I am not saying Jed is a shallow, silly man. He may be. I don't know. I'm not there with him on the, in the executive suites of the Niners. I do know that I'm very close with a family um, that their children grew up with his wife, Danielle. They love her and they think she's a substantial human being. So I assume they have a successful marriage and they have kids, Jed and Danielle. I've never met her. I assume he's a serious man in his marriage and successful. So I'm not saying he's a trivial, silly man. But when he did that with Kay Adams, he acted like an 11-year-old who got caught with his finger in the inkwell, if you even know what an inkwell is. It was very embarrassing that the CEO, whatever the hell he is, the owner of the 49ers, would come across not juvenile, childish, childish. And what his giggling meant was, why are you bothering me with this insubstantial topic? He
He even
even
brought it
said
up on
this.
his own. Like, hey, you're not even going to believe this. This is so stupid, right?
Right, he brought it up. You're right. That's a
Yeah.
key point. She wasn't even. I don't know what the hell she was going to ask, but
Yeah.
he didn't. He brought it up, I guess, to short circuit the discussion. But he made it worse. He made it worse by essentially saying, "This is bullshit," and I don't. And I'll talk about it in the sense that I don't want to talk about it, and I don't take it seriously. Well, some of the players take it seriously. CMC takes it seriously. The tight end, Kittle, takes it seriously. These are men who have a very short lifespan in the league. They want to be healthy. They don't want to have to be fighting against electrical current or an ownership that doesn't care. None of them is saying that this substation is hurting them. They're saying, would you investigate it?
Yep.
Because we have a limited lifespan and we want to think you're on our side. What were you going to say?
And we're the most injured team in the league every year.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe if this is the cause of it, maybe there's something mutually we can do because we all have the same goal to be successful and to be healthy. The other thing, he also said in both interviews, his answer to the substation was that Jerry Rice was healthy. He was healthy in 1987. That's what he said. I looked it up. They didn't move to Santa Clara till 1988. So to say he was healthy in 1987, that was when they were in Redwood City. So he didn't even know the year that they were exposed to the substation. Jerry subsequently got seriously hurt once he was exposed to that substation, whether or not it was its fault. The point is, he didn't know that, and he didn't, in the second interview, know what they gave up to get McCaffrey. He didn't know what draft picks they gave up. He's the owner. So you feel if he doesn't know
He
these
also didn't know what they
things,
gave up to get Trent Williams.
okay. So what I'm saying is, in when you study novels and there's a narrator, there are reliable narrators and unreliable narrators, and they're both very thrilling. Well, you wonder, is Jed a reliable narrator or an unreliable narrator? He doesn't know basic facts. So how can you believe him on anything? Believe is the wrong word. Trust him to be accurate and to be honest. I'm not saying he's not honest, but there's an element now of distrust with him. And one more thing, Iggy, before you jump in. The second interview with Sherman, who I thought did a nice job, he asked him, "Are you going to look into this thing about the substation?" And Jed's response was, "I'm not going to look into it. I have people who look into it for me." Meaning, again, it's beneath me. His players' welfare is beneath him. I have people. Now, if I were there, Sherman is not as experienced as I was. What people? Who's going to look into it? Name a name. What's his credential or her credential? What do they know about this subject? The follow-up question is, you have people to look into it for you? Name one.
Yep.
That's a follow-up question, Iggy.
Yeah.
And then he has to do it, or he looks like
Because
a
there is no
silly.
one. It's such obvious horse manure. And I think what's so funny is like watching him do that and say those things. I couldn't give his performance a lower grade. I was a Z minus. Anyone else in the organization would have done a better job. Kyle could have done a better job. John Lynch could have done a better job. Al Guido would have
Yeah,
done such a better job than Jed. All you have to do is furrow your brow and put on a concerned face and be like, there's nothing more important than the health of our players. And we have not been nearly healthy enough the last 10 years. So obviously we take this seriously. Now, we don't have any conclusive results yet, but we are focusing on this, and we want Christian and George and Bosa and Purdy to rest assured that we are taking this as way more seriously than even they are. And we will let them know what we find out. And if there's 0.1% chance that this is impacting them in any way, we will fix it. That's all you say. How do you not say that?
Iggy, I love I love how you just expressed it. And I want to say there's hope, because although he flubbed in the two interviews, this was new material to him. Okay? It was new material. He still can make it right.
Yeah.
That's the point. Okay, you didn't do well in those two performances. Take a deep breath, sit down, think about it. How do you want to portray yourself? What are your priorities? How do you want your players to see you? They want to see you as on their side. He has a chance to do it, and here's how he can do it. And Jed, I'm not putting you down. I'm saying you can rise to the occasion. One, learn what experts he needs to talk to. He can contact the lady you spoke to, Dr. Alexis Cowan, and he can say to her, I'll fly you out. May we talk, or we'll do a Zoom. And can you recommend someone on the other side of the issue from you? Someone who disagrees with you. She's open minded. She would do that,
Yeah.
Iggy. She was wonderful. She was in pursuit of truth, not winning. And maybe I could
Jed
get
didn't
the
seem like he was in pursuit of truth. He seemed like he knew it already or assumed he did.
but I'm saying he can do this now.
Yeah.
He can fly two people on one side, two people on the other side, treat them to a nice hotel, treat them to lunch and dinner, meet in a conference room with Kyle and with Lynch and with some scouts, and say, we really take this seriously. Help me with the language, because I'm a layperson, and and then you'll go and I'll have more questions because I'm just learning it. Iggy, that would be eminently fair. And the other thing that Dr. Alexis said was, move your practice away
Yeah.
from the facility for one season. She said maybe more. I'm saying one season. See if there are different results. See if you don't get injured as much. And if you continue to get injured as much, it's not the substation. And you've answered your question, but
Yeah.
you've done due diligence. And I think that would be fair. And Jed, you still have a chance to do all those things.
Yeah, I feel like what they would say is, "Look, Jed, we can't prove." I mean, if you got experts on both sides, we can't come to a consensus and prove that this is definitely the reason why your team is the most injured team in the league. But at the same time, there haven't been that many compelling scientific case studies of this issue, and it seems like the Niners have sort of created one themselves. You have a team full of players who are next to the substation all the time, very close for long durations of time. You can actually conduct the experiment. So while maybe scientists can't get together and agree, maybe they would agree, like, you know what? It might be worth it, since there's a little gray area here, a little disagreement, to try practicing somewhere else for a year just to see what happens, considering none of us know 100% for sure what will happen. I can't imagine that there would be some doctor or some scientist that would tell Jed, don't even pay any attention to this. Keep doing what you're doing. You just have a 10-year run of bad luck.
Yeah, and I agree. I love what you're saying, Iggy. And look, they're now near Santa Clara University. There must be a lot of fields there, and it's very close. San Jose State is close too. I think there are enough practice facilities, and plus, I don't live in the South Bay. There must be a lot more that I don't even know about, and they could practice at. What would be the loss? That would be a good thing. In addition, Iggy, I think if they were to do that, training camp should be somewhere else. They used to
Mhm.
do it at Rockland. I don't know if Sierra College is still available, but let's say Sierra College or a place like it.
Right,
So
right, the Raiders used to go to Napa.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
there's
they
places.
the Raiders or in Santa Rosa,
Santa Rosa, okay, okay, okay.
and they
The
practice right.
Cowboys go to freaking, Ventura every year.
Yeah, the Raiders practice. There were two fields right behind the Marriott. On the no, you may be right. The Raiders
Napa.
they were in Santa Rosa, and then they were in Napa. You're right.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and they were right behind the Marriott in Napa, and the players all stayed at the hotel, and
Yeah.
they were serious about their work and all of that. So there are options, and I think all we're asking, Jed, is to be cautious and prudent. We're not asking for outrageous things, and I think the players would appreciate it. I think it would. Maybe their hearts are a little heavy now, and it would lighten that load.
Also, one more thing, and I'll just speak for myself on this, but, like, when I hear him say there's absolutely nothing to this, I think, well, you don't know anything about this. You're not an expert. And for you to have that knee jerk reaction when you're financially culpable makes me feel like you don't really want to find out the truth, that you're nervous. So
Fair
don't
enough.
do that. Don't do that. You gotta get out in front of this.
I
Deflecting doesn't work at all.
I love when you say get out in front. The next time he gets interviewed, he should say, you know, I take this seriously, and I've consulted this person from MIT, this person from Stanford. In fact, I'm going to have them talk to you on a Zoom call, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm trying to get up to speed as quickly as I can because this is serious. And I want to say something else. It's not only serious for the Niners, Iggy. It's serious for the league.
Yep.
I think the league should be interested and should
Yep.
maybe help the Niners financially. If
And
it's
the NFLPA should be interested, and they should be
oh God,
going to
yes.
bat for these players.
Absolutely. So it should be Jed, but also the Players Association and the league. We want to get to the bottom of this. There may be other teams that are in similar situations. We want
Yes.
to have the best results, and we want to be a clean league. They should all be involved.
To me, this is under the same umbrella as playing surface. The same reason you spend extra money for grass as opposed to artificial turf is the same reason you should want to spend whatever it takes to learn about this and to fix it. Just because it might have an impact. It might.
Yes, and Jed, again, as we close on this, I'm not putting you down. I wish you had done better in the two interviews, but they're behind you. This issue is still in front of you, and you can rise to the occasion. And I want to think you're the kind of person who will.
But if you ignore it and do nothing, and your team is among the most injured teams in the league again next year, it's hard to blame Kyle or John Lynch for that. That's kind of going to be on you.
Right. And you should know that. Let's end
Yeah.
on a positive note on this. Let's try to
You
end
keep
positive.
trying. And I'm like, but.
Don't do any
Go
more
ahead.
buts.
All
I
right.
want to end positive. In fact,
Fair.
I want you to end positive. You do it.
Jed, I believe in you. I think you're going to do the right thing. And I'm looking forward to seeing you do that.
Great. I like it.
Touch Band says, get blue chip players only, tired of scheme guys. Yeah, and stop reaching for him and trading up for him. Amp, the Carolina Niner, says, incredible stream with molecular biologist. Love that you have the peanuts to objectively seek the truth, even when you don't necessarily buy in. Grant the GOAT. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mighty Tith is a new member. Thank you, Mighty Tith. And KRNA RMG says Jed will never take the substation story seriously because of 3 words: class action lawsuit. Like, couldn't
Boy,
we say
that's
like we genuinely didn't know, and as soon as we realized what was happening, we addressed it?
I think he could. I'm not a lawyer. He could say we didn't know, if they proved he did know, then he's in trouble. But he could say now we didn't know, but we're looking into it. That's a very interesting comment, and I don't know what the reality is.
I mean, considering the science is so conflicted at best on this, it seems
Yeah,
like he would have some plausible deniability.
yeah.
All right, Dad. It is Prize Picks time, but the NFL season is over, so it's time to turn to the other boring team in the Bay Area, the Warriors, Dad. The Warriors. Let's check out some of their stars. Moses Moody, 16. Will he have an offensive explosion tonight, Dad? Moses Moody
Who
against
who would
Memphis,
they?
16 and a half points. Moses.
Okay, fewer. But before we go on,
Sure.
uh, I want you to know that I'm really happy that there's one name I won't have to hear anymore about the Warriors, Kaminga. Now, he may be, I've never met him. He may be very nice, but there was entirely too much talk. You'd think he was Jerry West or Elgin Baylor. So thank God we don't have to do Kaminga. And I hope that's the last time I ever say his name in my life. And God love you. I hope you have a good career.
Yeah, not his fault, but man, that was a
Oi,
discussion topic for 5 years. Yikes.
oi.
So Moses, we believe in you. How about Pods? 15 and a half for Brandon Podjemski. He hasn't touched that in a while.
No, no way.
No, no. I mean, look at his face. Okay. D'Anthony Melton. No, how about Pat Spencer, the former lacrosse player? 13 and a half for Pat.
I like that guy, Iggy. I like he scurries around the court and stuff. I don't think he's very good, but I'm going to say more just because I like the way he scurries.
I don't think
You
he's
know he
very good, but he
scurries, right?
plays, and I respect that. Love
He
that.
scurries.
Okay, Ty Jerome for Memphis, 13 and a half points against the stingy Warriors. Do you think he can pull it off?
Okay, could I say as a preface, I've never heard of him,
That's
Ty
fair.
Jerome.
Ty
Okay,
Jerome. But look
because
at
I
his
don't.
face. Just look at his face. Does that look like a
Uh,
guy who's scoring 14 points against the Warriors?
no, Ty. No, he's
No.
no,
Look at
no.
him.
Hi, I'm sorry.
I'm big on judging people just by their face. I think you can do a lot. Okay, this guy's name is Cedric Coward. That's not fair. He didn't get. I mean, who?
His last name is Coward.
How is your last name Coward? That must mean he's a tough guy. Probably a very mentally strong person to
Right, he had to
deal with that.
overcome it. Yeah.
12 points, more or less, for Mr. Coward.
No, more, more. By
More.
the way, there was a very famous English playwright named Noel Coward. So maybe
Maybe they're
they're
related.
related. I don't, yeah.
There you go. All right, those are our highly educated NBA prize picks. We're going to flex it just in case. You could download prize picks yourself, play $5 and get $50 instantly in lineups when you use promo code COHN. Use
But
that.
could I say one thing to your
Please.
viewers? I hope you know more about a betting on that than I did, and that you pay no attention to what I said, because it's more serious for you than it is for me, and I think it's a great deal for you.
That's right. All right, Dad. That's hour and 12 minutes. We took the substation topic much more seriously than Jed York did.
I
You
said
got to do
end
it.
on a positive note.
But what I want to say, Jed, is that even though we did better than you today, the ball is now in your court. And the thing about you is you're a sleeper. Just when people count you out, you do your best work. So I'm thinking 2026 is the year of Jed York. You know how you
Okay.
have the year of the fish or the year of
Yeah.
the mackerel? It's the year of Jed. Jed, we all believe in you. You're going to do the right thing.
And if it were prize picks, we would say more.
More on Jed.
More
Stock
on Jed.
up. Yeah.
Okay.
Dad, that was a very positive show. I appreciate. You kept trying to turn it negative, but I brought you back in. So that's what I'm here for.
I love you, son.
I love you too, Dad. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back